Can you see now?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leprechaun Alley. My name is Ray Carey Perillo,
I am Michael G. Perillo.
and we wanted to start off the show just by describing what we do. We are providing live astrology readings, combining Western and Chinese astrologies, and we'll give brief astrology readings on request.
And what has to be remembered in each of our shows is that the readings that we do are spontaneous. We do not have information beforehand. We do not have anything figured out and calculated on the basis of research or anything like that.
We want this, yeah.
This really shows you when you see the interaction between myself and Carrie, you will see that it can be it involves a lot of different pieces of information, and that's a lot of this information has a basis of truth because we'll be able to repeat very similar events in the very same way, showing you that there is a basis for astrology, which is a pseudoscience. You have anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah, it's a soft, like a soft science, sure. Yeah, well, astrology is more of a philosophy as well.
And the readings, remember, are somewhat, I don't want to use the word superficial, but they're brief. Certainly, there's a tremendous more information to this research and when we do private readings.
So, if you like what you hear when we're giving you the brief readings, go ahead and click on the link below to schedule a private reading with us. We offer, what the link is we just put everything under one umbrella and just call it astrology and innerverse mechanics. So we offer Western and Chinese readings, personal readings, along with Jyotish.
And at times we will also include other subjects, such as what's going on between countries, other philosophies. Sometimes we'll touch upon religion, but we do not like to go very, very deep into that. But we will give you the theories that were developed over many, 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 many centuries of time.
Millennia, yeah.
Millennium.
And the other services that we provide as well on our channel is I am a certified soul recovery coach. So this is a 12-week program that is based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's the 12 keys to success and freedom. And it's a deep, intensive probing into the things that we think and feel and do that cause us to have self-hatred. So it's a great program. It's 12 weeks, 3 months. When you go through this program, it is absolutely, truly transformational. So I encourage you to check that out. And also, if you want to just do a quick, brief birth syllable, you just want to know what your birth syllable is to incorporate into your name. It is a syllable that's based on the nakshatras and based on when you want to name your child, then you incorporate that syllable into their name.
We will also cover sometimes numerological values and how they affect your person and your direction in life. And as well as that, we will get into philosophies and sometimes even the psychology of astrology. But we'll try to keep it interesting for sure.
And if there are any topics that you are interested in covering as well, you can also leave feedback in the comments. And we go ahead and look at the comments. And if there's something else that you want us to cover, you can leave it in the comments.
And we can discuss it.
Right. We'll discuss it in the live show if you're not able to come. And you can go ahead and play it later.
Very good. We've covered what I thought we need to. Okay. So we go on. If there's anyone that wants a brief reading now, please indicate that, and we will read today.
Yeah, as we're waiting for people to come on and enter the room, you want
to continue with the planets and the signs. We stopped with Leo. What is it?
You know what? Go ahead and start talking about Leo. And I'm going to see what's going on.
Okay. So when we last
Leo
spoke
and the
about
sun.
How the planets and the signs work together and what they mean. We stopped with Cancer, so we will continue now with Leo. Leo is a fire sign in the Western zodiac. It corresponds in China to the year of the monkey. Uh, in Western astrology, Leo is ruled by the sun, whereas Cancer is ruled by the moon. These are the two luminaries that are used to do charts in Western astrology. These luminaries are referred to by most astrologers as planets because it gets fatiguing to say, well, we have 8 planets and 2 luminaries, so we call everything planets, understanding that the sun and the moon are not planets, they're luminaries. So getting back to Leo, Leo is ruled by the sun. It happens that astrology, for those who want to know, it began with assignment of the planets with the center of the zodiac, and that was the signs Cancer and Leo. Leo was given to the sun, and Cancer was given to the moon. So they begin at the middle of the zodiac. How the other planets were assigned is simple, and I'll repeat this as we go over the other signs. So when they developed the assignment of planets, they took from the sun, they went to the first planet beyond the sun, and that would have been Mercury. So Mercury would follow Leo and rule Virgo, but it will also uh, be at the sign before Leo, as Mercury travels in a orbit that is close to the sun, so it does not move more than one planet forward and one behind. So the other sign that Mercury rules is a sign before um, uh, Mercury, Leo, and where was I now? I've lost my place. Mercury is given to Leo, to the sign after Leo, which is Virgo, and it's given to the sign before Cancer, which is Gemini. So Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And then Venus, of course, having a larger orbit, it can only be 2 signs before or 2 signs after. So Mercury will be either in the sign of its ruler, which is going to be after Leo, Virgo, I should say. It will be, Venus will rule Libra, and it will be in the sign before Taurus, before Gemini, which is Taurus. So Venus is given to those 2 signs. And of course, Mars comes next, and it goes before and after. Of course, Mars has a larger orbit, so it can cover all 12 signs, and you must refer to the almanac by force to know exactly where it is because it goes through all 12. But it rules the sign after Libra, which is Scorpio, and the sign before Taurus, which is Aries. And the same thing happens with the next planet, which would be Jupiter. And so Jupiter comes in the sign after Scorpio, which is Sagittarius, and before Aries, which is Pisces. And of course, the final planet, which is used because we do not use the outer planets, and it would be this planet Saturn. Saturn will rule the sign after Sagittarius, which is Capricorn, and it will rule the sign before Pisces, which is Aquarius. The other 3 planets that we use, that are used by modern astrologers, would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But these planets have not been used by the ancients because they take so long to go across each sign, 30 degrees of a sign. For instance, Uranus takes 7 years to go through a particular 30-degree segment of the constellation of the solar system's orbits. Therefore, it's not really used to describe individuals. It's more for describing events that take years. For instance, events going on in the world and how temperature is affected, how governments are run, and what goes on in countries. Same thing with the planet after Uranus, which is Neptune. It takes 14 years to go through a 30-degree segment of the zodiac, and Pluto takes 39 years. So you can understand why these are not proper to be used in a chart and assigned to a particular one sign. If anything, it will affect more universal things, and if it is assigned to other signs, they would be co-rulers. And I don't want to go any further into this technical aspect of it because there are other things to say about astrology. We will cover many of these same subjects and repeat some of these things so that those who are really interested in astrology might learn something from this. At least much of what I provide with, as far as astrological knowledge is concerned, you will get a technical understanding of it, and you will find out that it is a very mathematical method by which information is gathered. It is not just hearsay. It is not just magical. It is not seance. It has nothing to do with um assignments made, you might say, spontaneously because it came out of someone's head, but rather that it has been over the observation through time that has occurred over many, many, many thousands of years. And when I say many thousands of years, it puts into question our Western view that our civilization is only 5,000 years old. It is not true. We will not get into that. Maybe later in these shows, we will discuss things such as ancient aliens and what they have discovered. And of course, we will indicate too the artifacts that are left behind that could only have been produced by advanced civilizations, far more advanced than us. But not to get into anything that's controversial for those who might uh, feel insecure that our history is not complete. We will keep our discussion of those things to a minimum at this time until people have sort of caught on to how things are done. Now, getting back to Leo, the sun rules Leo. So Leo is considered to have great heart, great ego, pride, a certain level of honesty, energy of all types. And Leo is said to be the promoter of the Western zodiac. If we go to China, it is ruled by the monkey, and the monkey is said to be a great promoter, a great manipulator, that they are not only hardworking, but very, very talented with their hands, that they can do many things. China says that if you want a woman, if you want to marry a woman who will work for you, you marry the sign Leo, the female Leo, that she will be a hard worker and will work for you despite whether you like to work or not. These are qualities of this grand quality of Leo. Why is it grand? Because it is ruled by the greatest planet or the largest luminary in our solar system, which would be the sun. The only planet that even comes near to that size is Jupiter, and when we get to Jupiter, we'll describe how that affects the sun. The other aspect of Leo is that Leo rules the fifth house of a chart. Now, when we say the fifth house, we're talking about when we erect a chart for someone that is called a horoscope. Keep in mind that as we go into the horoscope, we're getting into more finer and finer details. We're getting more specific to the individual and how the individual might behave and what could be predictable outcomes of their behavior. And of course, Leo being the fifth house, it rules over children, it rules over love matters, and it rules over sexuality. The Chinese say that the monkey is the most sexual animal that we know of on our planet. And sure enough, I can be a little raw here. The monkey is said to be masturbating most of the time. And the monkey is, of course, occupying the house where Leo is. So you start to see how this is all developed. And it's interesting because much of these things that are said about these signs will be found to be true when you study the individuals that are affected by these planets, that these things are important. we'll now, I guess we'll move. The best thing is to do is to keep this as brief as possible so that we can cover all of these signs without boring
Oh,
people
hello. Hi.
with
Sorry, I'm back. Hi,
details.
Sylvia. Welcome. Sorry, I had a little housekeeping I had to take care of, unfortunately. Um, so if we're just going to keep talking, and if there's anything that you have curiosity about or anyone you would like us to read for, we're more than happy to do that. And
Okay,
so with
so
Leo,
then I just completed Leo.
okay, and
And
did we discuss the sun some more?
if you have something more that you want to add, otherwise we can go on to Virgo.
Oh, okay. We were kind of
So
discussing.
Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and I said that it also rules Gemini. We talked about Gemini and Virgo and Mercury. Now we'll talk about the difference between Gemini and Virgo, who are both
Oh,
ruled
okay.
by
Okay.
Mercury.
Mm.
And so Mercury, when it goes into Virgo, it's different from when it's in the sign Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. It represents one of the intellectual signs. The air signs in the Western zodiac represent the intellect, whereas Virgo is an earth sign like Taurus. It represents practicality. So Virgo brings this intellect into a practical matter, more systemized. It deals with uh, the Virgo selecting specific things that it wants, whereas Gemini touches upon everything that's around its environment, translates it into mental energy and mental understanding. Virgo, on the other hand, is a sign that it has purpose, it has direction, it selects. And so Virgo is about minutia. It's about investigating something to its finite point. So Virgos are found looking into matters that are more and more detailed, more and more pinpoint. They tend to be more exacting. In China, the Virgo is ruled by the chicken, which in the United States is called the rooster, but that's improper. It belongs to the chicken, or better yet, it is any bird. It can be any bird, and we'll discuss that more when we go back into some of these signs as we say more about it. But for the time being, what we can say about Virgo, it is about the mind being more systemized. Everything is more categorized. They're very proper. They repeat the performance because they're looking at to inspect things thoroughly. So Virgo is much more precise in its approach. It can become precise in pinpointing problems, for instance, discovering disease and why they are caused. On the opposite side, Virgo can become so involved in detail that you would say that this one loses the forest for the tree rather than the tree because of the forest. Virgo will look at the tree and go beyond looking at the tree. It will start looking at the bark. It'll go beyond the bark and it will want to look at the fissures in the bark. He keeps going deeper and deeper. So Virgos can sometimes annoy people because they're exacting. They're very particular. They can be fussy, but of course they repeat the performance well. So Virgos are notorious for being able to research and to be able to repeat whatever they've been doing, whether they're working in a factory or whether they're a scientist. They will improve on their project and on their methods over and over and over again. They're reliable. You can count on them. They're considered to be serious. Virgo likes to be alone in its work. Men that are under the sign Virgo, you will find many of them as self-employed contractors who don't want others to tell them what to do. And if you have experience with people born in the year of the bird or the chicken, you will find that they happen to like to be apart from everyone else. If they're going to engage in anything, it will be with people of their own sex. So males like to hang out with other males. The female Virgo will like to hang out with other females. They like to have association. And there we have that saying, birds of a feather flock together. This is what is meant. We know that the Virgo is practical and it looks for facts rather than hearsay or just philosophy. Philosophy by itself is just not going to work for Virgo. They have to have the ability to touch and feel and taste whatever it is that they're going through. So Virgos are good servants. They're considered the sign of health. And you will find many Virgos involved in the medical field, where they're nurses or doctors or surgeons, because of their ability to be very exacting and very deep into their work, serious-minded. So now that we've covered Virgo,
maybe would you want to talk a
well,
little
you
bit?
can. What would you?
I apologize. I apologize. Unfortunately, yeah, there are some business things I had to take care of.
Well, it
So we can
happens. It
continue
happens.
on.
That's why there's two of us here.
Yes, that's why there's two of us.
So do
Okay.
you want to say anything about Virgo?
Yeah, you know what? I just really wanted to also discuss how where the houses are, and how, like, Leo is the natural fifth house.
Well, I talked about the
We
fifth
did,
house
okay.
being the house of sex.
I apologize what I
and the
missed.
house of children and the house of love.
And
And
creativity.
Virgo is the house of service.
Right. And that corresponds to the natural sixth house. Hi, JG. Welcome.
Right. The
Nice.
sixth-
Thank you for coming, you guys.
Just so that we can show you how more involved astrology is, the sixth house represents open enemies in both our Western system and in some way also in Jyotish, because the sixth house is going to be confrontational. It is because it is exacting, and it will not deviate. It will want to follow its purpose. And so the open enemies are here. These are the ones who will let you know that they hate you, or they are out for your demise, or they are just disagreeable. Want to
Yes.
move on to?
Well, just also, so in terms of thinking about your open enemies, and also it's the house of work, of labor.
Well, labor, yes.
And so labor, yes, would
occupation.
be right. That would be your
Whereas
career is a 10th house.
Position is Capricorn, but occupation, being in toil, is Virgo. Virgo is
Right.
about toil.
And labor
being
is an
involved.
open enemy. Hard work is an open
Right,
enemy at a
exactly,
certain point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas Capricorn wants to delegate power. It's the one who wants to assign itself as value in a society.
Right.
In any event, we want to move on to the next sign.
Oh, well, I was going to say,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, something also, I was kind of noting is that when we deal with astrology, because we really are dealing with the realm of the subjective, a lot of the ideas that we have about work and labor and career and position, how we frame them in the way that our society is ordered, isn't necessarily the way that astrology characterizes them.
Now, Carrie mentioned the word subjective.
Yeah.
And it would be good to note here that Virgo is the last of the subjective signs.
Yes.
So from Aries through to Virgo, the first 6 signs of the zodiac are considered to be subjective. The last 6 signs from Libra to Pisces are considered objective.
And what does subjective look like?
Well, what subjective means is that let's give you an example, and we're just giving you a caricature of these examples, not specific details.
I like caricature.
Right, it would be just the let's say it, an overall that covers the sign. Subjective would be like an individual awakens, and the day is just horrible out there. It's snowing, it's sleeting, it's windy, it's miserable. And the subjective signs will awaken and decide how they feel. And they feel good. The day is fantastic. Doesn't matter that it's snowing, screaming. They look at how they feel first, how they think about the day, what the day means to them. What the objective signs do, we're going to go back to the example. They wake up and they're feeling miserable. They look outside and it's beautiful, but that's not how they feel. It's a miserable day because they feel miserable. Objective is coming from looking at the outside, how it affects them. Or did I say this backwards? No, the day is good, so they feel better.
Right.
That's the way it is.
Right.
No, they look outside and it could be horrible outside, and they start to feel from what is going on outside, they feel like maybe there's something wrong with them. The subjective person looks at the outside and decides from where they are what the outside is about.
Would it be correct to say then that really the objective signs are more influenced by their environment?
By their friends, or what their friends think,
Right.
and what they're saying, whereas the subjective signs already have an idea of who they are. and their friends can't really move them from the position they're in. So if they get offended, it might be no big deal. They don't agree, period,
Right.
because they're looking from their perspective, not from the objective perspective that is outside themselves.
So those who are Jupiter or Saturn dominant would naturally be in the objective signs, right? Because it's Sagittarius, Capricorn, Pisces, I mean Aquarius and Pisces. So those would all be in the objective
Right, there would be
signs.
there would be from it would be Saturn and Jupiter, correct.
And what's interesting, of course, is that Jupiter and Saturn, they are the social planets. So you
Right,
see this, it
right.
just really beautifully
Right, there is a
articulates. Yeah.
mathematical precision in all of this, and we don't want to bore you at the beginning because we don't know that everybody that is viewing us wants to learn astrology. So we'll keep it at a minimum. And we
Well,
are
we
keeping
are
most
here
of
for
this.
astrology though, but
Well, I mean that we're
but the technical.
for those who
Right.
are looking at this from how we present astrology, we don't want to get into such technical things that we
Right.
bore those who are not interested in the technical aspects of astrology.
Right.
But we'll put it out there so that you understand that there is a process that we go through where that is necessary in order to interpret a chart. So I guess we'll move on after.
Yeah. And so then we're going into Libra,
We're
starting
going to
with
Libra,
our
and
first objective sign.
Libra is the first objective sign. It is the first time that there is an opposition in the zodiac, meaning then that Aries being the first sign, it finally has a complement. Aries being the beginning of spring, and Libra being the beginning of autumn. So Libra becomes the opposite, let's say, partner of Aries, and it is called the partner or the marriage sign. But every sign has a marriage sign. It's
Right.
the Libra's notorious because it's the first time an opposition occurs. So Libra becomes the sign of marriage, of partnership, of justice, of the spirit of the law created through Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Libra is ruled by a yin planet, but Libra itself is a yang sign. And we'll get more into that when we go to.
Yes.
I think when we mentioned Taurus, we mentioned Libra.
Yes.
I mean, we mentioned Venus.
Yeah.
Venus is a yin planet, and Taurus is a yin sign. We'll get more into this when we do other readings, and we'll expound on all of this. But for the time being, we'll try to keep it brief.
Okay. So do you think it would be also accurate to say, with exception of the sun and the moon, that the personal planets occupy two different houses, one yin and one yang?
All right. So now we're going to stop a little bit just on the planet, on the sign Libra. What Carrie has just said is the personal planets. In a chart, when you're doing a chart reading, or at least when we're doing one, and I think most astrologers do the same thing, they look at Venus and Mars as the personal planets. What does this mean? Well, this is very simple to figure out if you know astrology. Mars is a yang planet, and it rules the yang sign Aries. And Mars indicates the male nature in your chart. So, for a man, Mars in their chart would indicate how the man perceives himself as a male. For a woman, Mars represents the male.
Hi, Linda. Welcome.
The male that she's attracted to, whereas because Mars represents her complement, and this would be where she would attract. Venus, on the other hand, is a yin planet. It rules the Taurus, which is a yin sign. It also rules Libra, which is a yang sign. So you start to see that in the astrology, they're balancing yin and yang. For instance, the sun and the moon. The sun being the yang, rules a yang Leo, and the moon, the light that's derived from the sun, rules over Cancer, which is a yin sign, and the moon being a yin planet. So you start to see how we have to add these pieces together when we're doing astrological readings. That is why on this show, the live readings really comprise of a very brief quality expression and interpretation of one's chart. More intense reading, more
Right.
complete
And
reading.
it's a lot of
It
information, even in
requires
the in brevity.
requires a lot of mathematics. Not so much as Jyotish. Jyotish requires tremendous amount of mathematics because they divide a chart into many, many segments. And when we start to talk about Jyotish, Carrie, who is more professed in that, will to be able to describe those for you.
And I just wanted to add also regarding the personal planets, it absolutely makes sense that there would be a yin and a yang, because if it's personal, we're really dealing with the individual and we contain both qualities.
Exactly. We are
Yeah,
comprised of yin and yang, whether we're males or females. For instance, one can be born in a yin sign. For instance, a Virgo is a yin sign. So that, but the male Virgo has a yang body, whereas a female Virgo is a yin body and a yin sign. So talking back up to Libra, Libra is, of course, the sign of the partnership, as we said, and so they are complementary. What we find about Libra is that it wants to see the other side of the argument.
I got this from my sister-in-law, the Sagittarian coffee mug. She's a
Right.
Leo. Fabulous.
So because Libra is looking at the complement, you will often find many, many, many Librans, if not all, that when you're discussing a subject matter, they will present the opposite view. It doesn't matter whether they agree or disagree with you. For instance, they could
Right.
agree with your subject matter, but they'll take the opposite viewpoint because someone has to represent the other side. That's because Libra is the other side of the zodiac. And this is what goes on. Whereas if you're discussing a subject with an Aries, they will tend to be on the subject that they profess in. And if you're arguing with them, they will dispute an argument if they disagree with you. They're not interested in the other side. They're interested in what they've learned and what they
Right.
know.
Right.
But Libras, on the other hand, they know what they know, and they're interested in what they know. But somebody has to represent the opposite view when there is a discussion or an argument. And by an argument, we don't mean a fight. You can tell them what an argument really is.
Oh, right. So even when you think about debate, obviously that's a very Libran place, right?
It's a polite form of disagreement.
Right. Right.
The,
So
right. The parameters that are set for both people to argue.
right, there's rules, there are laws,
Exactly.
there are ways for you to be a jerk. You have to be a jerk in an ordered way.
It's not a personal argument.
Right.
It is
It's
an
not right.
argument to understand and unfold the truth.
Right.
And that's what a real argument is. Anything other than that is a fight. So
Right.
most people do not have arguments. They say, I argued with somebody.
It's a
No, they fought with
right.
someone.
It's a fight.
That's what it is, because
Right.
both of them are trying to describe what they believe and they don't want to know the other side. They might think about it later, but not while they're fighting,
Right.
not arguing.
Right. That right. Fighting is what destroys relationships.
Unfortunately, we as a society associate fighting with
Right.
fist fighting.
Right.
But most of the things we call arguments are fights.
And I think this is a good point to have a conversation also about this, more so because we learn what we learn from society, from the people around us, and everybody does the best they can with what they have. It just stands, and now because I'm year of the dog, we're both year of the dog, right? So this also corresponds to Libra, which is also going to present argument or the other side.
Well,
And
we'll get into that discussion as we do people personal charts.
right, exactly.
Because you have Libra as you have the Venus in Libra, do you not?
I am Jodish, yes. And
Yes.
Jodish on top of everything else in my first house, because we really just work with the 7 inner planets. In my first house, 4 of the 7 planets are in Libra.
Right. So this is
Yeah.
important to know. But keeping in mind that we are providing not only astrology, but here we've just gone and delved into the philosophy behind all of this. And we will continue to mix these conversations with
Right,
not just astrology, but to give you the basis under which a lot of this astrology was developed.
right. And a little PSA, a little public service announcement about fighting and conversation with your loved ones. If we slow down and we listen to the content of what they're saying and how they're using their language, then we get some idea of what their orientation is. And when you slow down, you can start asking them questions and get clarity about what the issue is. Most of us, at least when we first start out, until we cultivate these things within ourselves, it's just, knock down, drag out, brawl. We're all trying on different personalities for size. But at the end of the day, peace is the most important thing, with integrity and structure and honesty.
And when we talk about fighting versus argument, most of the battles that go on between lovers and partners, it's more proper. Most astrologers will probably look at the sun signs and tell you why there's disagreement, whereas they really should be looking at the Mars and Venus in a man's chart and the Mars and Venus in a female's chart, or the partner.
Yes.
And compare those, and that will reveal where the fighting or the arguments might take place. Well, an argument's being a very polite form of disagreement. Fighting is where it gets hectic and rough at times and nasty at times. This will be able to present itself much better by looking at Mars and Venus in both charts of the two people who are sparring with each other.
And I think something that's really interesting to note too is when you look at the chart of the United States, the U.S. is a Cancer, year of the monkey.
Exactly.
So our country is actually ruled by subjective signs, and so this individualism is really important and prevalent.
Well, we keep
in our
saying
discourse.
how America's the greatest. This is very subjective.
Very right.
Other countries don't talk like that.
Right.
But we do. We're the greatest. We're the best.
Do, but we don't hear them. Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that I'm raised in this country. I'm American throughout, but America's not the greatest in everything. It's just absurd to think that. But this is because the United States is by year and by month, they're both subjective signs. Interestingly, by year it's a yang sign, and by month it's a yin sign. So there is some balance in the United States, but there's also contradiction in that the monkey wants to boast and the Cancer wants to be indulgent, but the Cancer side is sympathetic. So the United States gives money to a lot of countries. And the monkey is concerned about itself. So the United States also manipulates and exploits countries. So we see this duality, and now we're starting to understand, astrologically at least, how these things are resulting.
I was just actually thinking of an idea of creating a survey or a test, or maybe a competition, maybe down the line, of what we'll do is provide a list of countries and guess whether or not they're subjective or objective.
At least explain why there might be any kind of a cooperation or disagreement between them.
Right, but it would be fun. It would be fun to kind of sit down and kind of, based on, the way that the different countries operate and what they reflect as their philosophy as a country.
Can I have a little water?
Of course, it would be fun to. Yeah, we're talking.
I'll just have a little water here.
So it would be just fun just to have that contest, just to kind of put up a form. Maybe you can post it on the website. We'll put it together and we'll do like a yin yang contest, or whatever, the country guessing whether or not it's subjective or objective. I'll post that in up on our channel. I got to figure out where to do that. And whoever guesses the most countries correctly, we'll schedule we'll do a free astrology reading. I think that would be a really good thing to start.
So we should move on to Scorpio.
Yeah, let's go on to Scorpio.
We don't get dredged down on one subject, on one sign.
And just any of you who are new arrivals or are watching this, you are welcome to at any time. We're just having post in the chat
or
your birth data.
Post your request on where's it, the chat room?
Yep, right in the chat room.
And we will then provide a reading for you at this time. That's what we're here for. Of course, in future podcasts, we will get into many other levels of astrology, including philosophy. We will discuss even religious facts of what Jesus' sign might have been, what Moses' sign would have been, We'll get into those subject matters to keep our shows as interesting as possible, as informative as possible, and always seeking the truth in everything. We will not embellish on things we do not know. What we do not know, we are not going to pretend to know.
Right.
What we do know, it will be limited to the extent of our knowledge, and hopefully, between Carrie and I, we're fairly extensive in our knowledge.
So I wanted to say, what I did want to share with everyone is Michael and I actually, well, we live in Long Island. And what we have done over the years, and this is why I decided it's time to do a channel, is we go to restaurants, we hang out with friends, and we end up doing a lot of just live on the spot astrology readings
I've
for
been
people
doing that for a long time.
for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And we,
I've done lectures
Right.
and a fair amount of lectures. We're
Yeah.
familiar with the subject quite well.
Yeah. So we want to just create that same environment with our channel. It's just you're walking down the street, whatever, and some astrologist springs an astrology reading on you.
We'll remind you that our readings for this show are going to be as surface as possible because time is of the essence and we don't know who we're speaking to, but we would like to inform people of what astrology is like, at least from our viewpoint, and we try to be as objective about that viewpoint as possible, understanding that it's important for the people who are listening to us or hearing this program that we tell what we know as truth or something that is repeatable by, let's say, examples and by time itself.
Right. Good faith is important to us. And because we're dogs, we want to tell the truth. We want to sound off and protect. And that makes sense as well, because that's the sign of partnership.
So now we're going to cover that terrible sign, Scorpio.
Oh,
that
everybody's
afraid
goodness.
of. Everybody's afraid of Scorpio.
Honey, aren't they the worst?
When people talk about Scorpio, they're going to sting me. They're going to kill me. They're passionate, and that was just true.
They are passionate.
Scorpio is passionate. But let's talk about Scorpio being ruled by, it is a yin sign ruled by the yang planet Mars. It's interesting that the fire signs of the Western zodiac and the water signs of the Western zodiac share the planets or the planets that are associated with each other. For instance, Leo is a yang with Cancer, the yin moon. Yang sun with yin moon. Mars is a yang planet ruling the yang sign Aries and the yin sign Scorpio. So we see that the fire and the water are using the same planets because these planets are not just one quality. For instance, Mars is said to be the red planet. It seems to correspond to Aries, which is supposedly the sign that prefers red. And red would be Aries, but no, it also rules Scorpio.
Right.
So in beyond the fact that it is a fiery planet, it also has a watery quality. At least at some time in the ages that have passed, Mars had water, and therefore it rules the planet of the sign Scorpio as well.
Right.
And interestingly, many astrologers say that Scorpio behaves like a fire sign. Well, it's got Mars as its ruler.
Yes.
But there are differences. Would you like to describe more of Scorpio so that you have something to contribute as well as besides me?
Well, what I think about with Scorpio, I think is so interesting, is I'm of the ilk that really Scorpio is the most sensitive sign in the zodiac.
Well, at least the most emotional. I'm not so sure about sensitivity, but
and
emotional for sure.
Right. I find my mother's a Scorpio. She's incredible. I find them to be very sweet. If you're not offending them and you're not threatening them in some way, disapproving or, interfering with what they think is the right thing to do, because it represents right action. So that you're going to see this very responsible, sweet person. It's when you hurt them that you got to watch out for the stinger. But what's interesting is that with that level of sensitivity and that tendency to probe deeply, go into the inner sanctum, right? All of that's that feminine energy. You need a Mars, you need a Martian planet by which to protect yourself.
I would like to soften this word sensitive. Scorpio is not really notorious for sensitivity. It's emotional. Pisces and Aries are far more sensitive as signs because their childhood is very impressionable.
Right.
Scorpio is somewhat separated and detached from their sensations. They
Yes.
really look at the world for how it is affecting them, whether it is friendly or not. So
Yeah.
Scorpions really measure their environment very, very quickly.
Yes.
They represent more probably as transcendence, the
Right.
movement from one
Mhm.
state to another. This
Right.
is scorpionic, and they tend to be great leaders. They tend to be very great. Well, Scorpio
Right. Theodore
in
Roosevelt.
yes, Theodore Roosevelt is a perfect example of
We
Scorpio.
love
Very
him.
tough, and they're very conscientious of society because Scorpio represents the eighth sign of the zodiac. The sun is said to take a lot of strength in the eighth sign. Why? Because it is ruled by Mars, and Mars is considered malefic in terms of its effect.
Right.
It is a yang planet, and it is said that Mars takes on a benefic quality when it is close to the sun.
Right.
And so Mars is
Right.
strong in Aries because the sun is exalted in
The
Aries.
sun is exalted
Mars
in
gets
Aries.
along with
Yeah.
Leos because it's ruled by the sun. Mars is strong in Scorpio for for same reasons that it is in a powerful house, which is the eighth house. The eighth house is the sign of transformations. It is the sign of struggle. It is the sign of great success.
Right.
It has these two opposite points of view because if we go to Western astrology, and again, we try to keep this interesting, and we're going to tell you here and now that in ancient times we had what they called the witches.
Right.
And there were, in practice, there were four major birthdays for the witch. How does that happen?
It's because they're calling.
Oh, okay. So Mars, it is said that there are four major birthdays for the witches, and they occur on February 1st, May 1st, August 1st, and November 1st. These are the fixed signs of the Western zodiac. What does fixed really mean? It means that the sun finally settles into a particular season and it pronounces that season's completely. For instance, Aries is a cardinal sign. The sun takes on a new direction. It promotes growth. But when do we really see this growth? Well, we have the saying that April showers bring May flowers. In the Roman calendar now, we have most of April is Aries. It begins at the end of March, but it's Aries. And most of Taurus, which begins in April, at the end of April, but most of it is in May. So this is when the May flowers come out in the fixed sign of Taurus. The same thing occurs in the others. We have a cardinal sign, Cancer, where we have summer, but the intense part of summer is in the fixed sign Leo. The sun takes on the full qualities of summer. The same thing occurs when we get to Libra. The sun goes into the autumn sign, the cardinal sign Libra, and we begin to see the weather changing. But we see the sun's power in the fixed sign of Scorpio, the great winds, the transformations going on in nature. So we have these, and of course, the last one being Aquarius, which is winter. Capricorn brings in the winter, but the severe part of winter is in the fixed sign of Aquarius, which is February, the end of January, the bigger part of February. Well, having said that, we still have we no longer practice, the witchcraft is no longer what it used to be in the 1300s, the 1400s, the 1500s. What we have now is very, very small population or it's of witchcraft, and witchcraft is not a major factor in our society. However, there is one witch we still celebrate.
Yes.
The other three, not really, but we celebrate one. And you would be interested to know that we celebrate it all over the United States. And that happens to be November 1st. That's the Grand Witch. And we celebrate her on the eve of Halloween.
All Hallows Eve.
This is the eve of her birthday. She is considered the witch that transforms things, protects life. And then Scorpio is known as a protector. And the two warrior signs happen to be ruled by Mars, which are Aries and Scorpio. They also happen to be the most gentle signs. So I'll describe that more when we get into why these signs have certain differences and how they differ. But Scorpio is about transformation. It's about regeneration. It's about the power behind Scorpio. What is the secret behind the power of life?
Similar to Cancer, Cancer also represents growth.
But it represents growth, where Scorpio is really
full
representing
transformation,
regeneration.
Right.
Is protecting life. Its purpose is to protect life. So what do we see in Scorpio? Those who can commit great sacrifice.
Right.
And you will find many people who are ministers or who are, well, there are also many people who become policemen because they're out there to protect society, supposedly.
Right.
But of course, China calls this the year of the pig. We call it in the United States the boar, which is improper. China does not make a distinction between male and female.
Right.
It is the pig, and you could be, a boar, or you can be a sow. The fact of the matter is that it is a pig or any large animal, such as the hippopotamus and things like that.
Right.
It's not limited to just the pig itself, but animals like the pig.
Yeah, they generalize.
Right. Well, they give you the animal that you're most accustomed to.
Right, precisely.
That's what is used.
Precisely.
And that's the problem with astrology. We don't realize that there's a lot more to it.
Right.
So the pig, and what is the pig? It's about power. It's about force. If you look at a pig on a farm, it tries to knock down a horse. It has the body and the weight and the aggressiveness. And if you don't believe that, look at the, what are they called out in Australia? They're
the wild boars.
The wild boars, and they call them swines and other things.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
They're about, the wild
warthogs.
boars. Warthogs.
Yeah.
They're about power, and they can be some of the meanest and most terrifying animals on the planet. This is Scorpio. Now, in Western astrology, Scorpio is said to have 3 parts.
Well, also, so let's talk about Pluto as well, because that is the higher octave.
I don't want to talk about the outer planets until another time.
Oh, okay.
Because they really are secondary.
Right.
That I just mentioned in this show that there were the outer planets, and they were not used to describe individuals. They're used to describe generations.
Right.
So getting back to the pig, getting back to Scorpio.
Or large groups.
Both my father and Carrie's mother are
yes.
Mine was a Scorpio. Hers is still the Scorpio. So we have Scorpion parents as a commonality. And Scorpio, I know that of my father. There are 3 parts to Scorpio. One is called the gray lizard. One is called the scorpion. And the last one is called the eagle, describing how Scorpio changes according to their consciousness.
Yes.
The gray lizard is the scorpion that attacks himself. And I see that in my father. I saw that many of that. I've noticed that in a lot of the scorpions that I've met. The scorpion is the nasty one, like Charles Manson.
Yes.
They attack
there
others.
You go.
They attack others. Charles Manson was a Scorpio, as I said. But there are a lot of, I can mention, and at some point in time, we'll mention actors and actresses and their signs. And there are a lot of Scorpions who are good actors, like Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts is a Scorpio. I think she's a fire
flying nun. What was the flying nun?
Oh, Sally Fields is a Scorpio dog, 1946.
But the Scorpion itself, the one that is noted as a Scorpion, is the one who will attack. The eagle is the Scorpion that rises from the fires, and he is considered grand and powerful. We might say Robert F. Kennedy would be the eagle type, and Martin King Jr. Well, he wasn't a Scorpio,
No, it
but
was a
he
Capricorn.
was a Capricorn. Who am I thinking of? Oh, Martin Luther, the priest who
Oh, the
attacked,
Lutheran.
that fought with the church
Yeah.
and developed the Lutheran Church, because Martin Luther was against the selling of indulgences, and he had the church going after him to kill him. But he was an eagle; he was not going to get killed. The German princes protected him, but he was in the face of this great empire, and I'm going to call it an empire,
Right.
not a religion, was the Catholic Church. And I was raised as a Catholic, but I have a lot of discord about the Catholic Church.
I
And
was raised Baptist.
I don't hate people who are Catholics. I think they're fine, but I do have my disagreements because of my knowledge of what the Catholic Church accomplished, or the destruction they caused. Still, Martin Luther stood up to them. This is the eagle type of Scorpio. So as you see, astrology has complexities within it.
I thought, the thing that I thought was also really interesting about Martin Luther is how he became, and that's the San Pellegrino.
Oh,
But no, you
let
can
me
have.
have water. I just
Oh,
want
you just
water.
want plain water. Okay. Martin Luther, what he did do to separate from the Catholic Church is actually become even more disciplined, in a way, even more
Oh yeah,
strict.
no, Martin Luther was a very, very good man.
But
A
yeah,
very
but
good
he
man.
did. He became more disciplined and
He
more
wa-
rigid, also, which would be a scorpionic trait, because that's how he was able to liberate himself from, decouple himself
When they're great,
from.
they're
Right,
very, very
right,
great people. There's no dispute. I had a Scorpion literature teacher that was incredibly
right.
fabulous. So Scorpio is a very powerful sign, no question about it. Uh, I think I've said enough. Oh, it's the year of the pig. Oh, so the year of the pig, we have those pigs that are friendly and pets, and then we have those who are nasty.
Right.
Uh,
And you
it,
also find with Year of the Pig people, they so I mean, it sounds like such a vulgar word now because of how
no,
we.
we
Right.
Americans consider the pig a vulgar, but not the Chinese,
But and especially when
because
they're
it's
little
very
kids,
intelligent,
yeah,
by the
Year of
way.
the Pig people can be so cute and snuggly and adorable. And when they're little kids, it's
They like a lot of
oh,
attention. They like a lot of
it's
hugs.
darling. Yeah.
Yeah, they need a lot of affection because they have an emotional nature to them. And when we say that they're emotional, it doesn't mean they're out of control. That's not at all what we mean when we say emotional. It means that they are deeply involved with how they feel inside.
Right.
And the pig, of
Right.
course, is notorious
Right.
for being large. So we use the word hog. And
Right.
so pigs can hog things and want everything for themselves. But the positive pig is going to protect other people. That's their position.
And they will let their children drink,
And that is
nurse.
Scorpio. And you couldn't have a better friend than a Scorpio
They
who's
would
on your
sacrifice their
side.
life to feed their children.
Then
Yeah.
and they will defend their friends and their family no matter how bad they are.
You better believe it.
This is Scorpio.
Yeah, my
And
mom, what's interesting, my mom is a Scorpio and she has an Aries moon.
And because it
Right.
is ruled by Mars, Scorpio is a good warrior. The
Yes.
difference between Aries and Scorpio, who are known as the two war signs, is that Aries is like the special forces that attacks without thinking, causes disorder, and then we have Scorpio. Everything is calculated, everything is lockstep and precise. And this
Right.
is how Scorpions are. And this is Mars, where its energy is directed, because now Mars has to take on a fixed quality rather than the cardinal quality of the cardinal sign Aries.
Right.
It takes on the fixed quality of Scorpio. So we see that Mars has two sides to it.
And
And
so,
Scorpio
right.
being a water sign, whereas Mars is a fire sign. So we see the two aspects of Mars.
And so when I use the definition of sensitivity, what I'm referring to is
Well, that emotional side of
right,
them.
is the relational quality toward others. They have a tendency to kind of fight for the underdog too, but also it's about their response time to whatever is being presented to them. And so, for me, they tend to be caring and organized at the highest level, really good researchers. And when you're dealing with the positive quality as well, golly, I wanted to go with Oh, and when I'm looking at the sensitivity aspect of it, what I'm looking at is what they respond to and the intensity at which that reaction occurs because they're very deep and mystical.
So I guess we'll move on to Sagittarius if the time permits. I don't
Yeah,
know. I haven't
we're
been.
we're still doing good.
Okay, so now we
Yeah.
get to the sign Sagittarius, which is a yang sign. It happens to be in the West. It is considered a fire sign. Uh, to give you an idea of how we look at fire signs, when we have three fire signs and three air signs, three water signs, and three earth signs, it means that in each sign, that quality of their element has a different responsibility. For instance, Aries is the original fire. It's raw. It comes out in the raw form. So in China, he's the dragon. He just presents himself and everything. He scares everybody, but he doesn't really do any real harm.
Right.
The Leo is a fire sign, and he brags and he boasts himself, but on the other side, he wants to bring honor to who he's around. He wants to be around people that he respects, that respect him. He is in charge of children and of love
Right.
affairs.
Honor and protection.
So we see this side of the fire being more fixed, and so it's known as the creative fire. It is like the fire inside of an engine, where Aries is fire coming out of the heavens. When we get to Sagittarius, this is a fire sign. It's a mutable sign, so it has both a fixed quality and a mutable quality, or
Right.
a changeable quality. And this fire is considered the exploded fire, the fire of the spirit. And so Sagittarius says, I see. And they bring knowledge to the world. They bring light to the world. They bring understanding to the world. So the natural philosopher of the Western zodiac is the sign Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is very important in the Western astrology. It, for instance, rules over all forests. It rules over all animals. It rules over all herbs, all foods. They cover all of the important parts of what man wants to experience on the planet Earth. And so China, it's the rat or the mouse. And we know that they like to eat. And of course, we can give you an example
Yes.
of that. Italy was put together in the year of the rat in 1864. What do Italians like to do? Eat. And they're probably the best cooks
And
in the world.
dance and have fun.
Well,
Yeah.
the
And
rat,
gather.
well, the mice will play when the cat is away.
Right.
The Italians have perhaps the most interesting food in the world because they have such a variety of good tasting food. They're notorious for making their food absolutely good tasting. That is why in the United States they're the most popular restaurant, because they entertain that to provide pleasure to others. And this is all parts of the qualities of what Sagittarius is about. On the contrary side of Sagittarius, they can offend without trying to.
Right.
And we know that you cannot corner a rat because they'll bite you and they have serious teeth. So one of the sayings in
I was
West,
much worse when I was younger.
one of the sayings in the West is a Sagittarius is a velvet glove.
Iron fist with a velvet
the iron
glove.
hand with the velvet glove.
Right.
They touch you and it feels okay until later. It's something hurt. That's because they can make something horrible. They can say something horrible that sounds okay in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Because they're philosophers.
Exactly. I was going to say my first husband always used to say to me, he's deceased. He always used to say to me, I can't believe what you can get away with. You can tell people the absolute truth about what they're dealing
Make
with.
them feel good.
And they'll feel good about it.
But later it hurts.
Right. But later on you're like, oh, that
Oh,
stung a little.
there was something about that didn't go well.
Right. But the thing is that, the Sagittarius, despite that, is they are here. They are here for their friends. They are here to support them and help them move through whatever family issues or just overcome whatever it is that they want to overcome.
And now we must include
that's how it offsets it.
We must include that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the largest planet outside of the sun.
Right.
It is the largest planet. So what do we know about Sagittarians? They feel big, and oftentimes a lot of people consider them snobs because because they talk down to you.
Right.
That's because the planet Jupiter is bigger than all the other planets.
Right.
And Sagittarians like more of everything.
Yes.
And of course, Jupiter being larger and larger and larger than anything else. So when you're around Sagittarians, don't think that they're going to get comfortable with what you have to give. You've got to give more.
Yeah.
They want more. Whatever they're doing, they want more of it. If they're talking to someone, they want more. If they're
Right.
reading something, they want more.
Right.
If they're having fun watching, going to the videos or going to the opera, they want more of this because they are also they are very superb at social events,
Yeah.
operas and musical events, and where dances are going on, where people are gathering. This is where you will find Sagittarius. And the sign Jupiter is considered a benefic planet, and
Yes.
it's considered fortunate in your chart. And so is Sagittarius. After all, Sagittarius says and does, whether they hurt you or not, you always consider them as high esteemed friendships, people who bring good things to you rather than bad things, because that is what they're after. They're after more of whatever they're doing. So only a very negative Sagittarian is going to bring more of the negative, but
Yeah. Yeah.
usually
You can get some.
you will get benefit from a Sagittarius no matter what.
You can get some very rugged, primitive kind of fellas sometimes. You should tell them about what was there was a cartoon clip that was a really like a funny expression. What was it with the centaur? You were talking about a book that you had years ago.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Sagittarian, they depicted him. Of course, these were caricatures. They
You
depict
gotta start looking for
Sagittarius as
some
the
of
man,
those.
the half man, half horse, because he's a centaur, and he's dragging the woman who is refusing to obey him. He's dragging her by the hair through the woods with a club in his other hand, just in case he needs the club.
Just in case he needs the club.
Now Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius, also rules the sign Pisces, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that when we get to Pisces.
Mhm.
So you want to go to the next sign, or do you have a little more to say
You know,
about
I think we're going to
Sagittarius?
wrap it up with a Sagittarius.
Okay,
I do,
all
and
right.
what I wanted to, what I want to talk about is just so now we're talking about the subjective and the
Mhm,
objective
mhm.
signs of the zodiac, and so now you see as we go through Libra. Oh, and by the way, I did want to give them the phrase. Did we give them the phrase for Leo? What's the phrase for Leo?
I will. What do you mean by the phrase? It is I will.
I will. And then what is the phrase for Virgo?
Virgo is I analyze, but I'm not crazy with that. I've come up with a new one, but I have to remember what I assigned. But
Oh.
it is I analyze. In other words, it wants to discover deeper and deeper and deeper. So they're microcosmic, where Sagittarius is macrocosmic. Virgo looks down into the finest detail. So they're scoping down, like with electronic microscope, I guess. And Sagittarius is the very opposite. They look up and outward from the pinpoint of the earth out into space. So you will notice that a lot of Sagittarians tend to walk with their heads up in the air, their butts protruding just a little, but their heads are up, and their legs seem to go ahead of them like a horse.
And yeah, so and we can talk about. We want to give some fun examples because the whole snobbery is and the gregariousness, all of those things. It's really interesting to see them in different people. So we discussed a few shows back. For example, William F. Buckley and Noam
Right.
Chomsky.
Right.
They're also
These are two Sagittarians, right?
right. And
They're
then,
both very philosophical, very high-minded, very precise in their thinking. You notice that they don't rush in what they have to say because they want to say more, so they have to think and
right.
say and think and say, and they seem to go on with the same idea but more elaborate and more elaborate and more elaborate. So it grows in its size, but they keep things fairly interesting because
Right.
Sagittarius is considered a universal scholar. That's what they are.
You Bo and Jeff Bridges, also
Also
Sagittarians.
Sagittarian, right?
And I really feel like, I mean, Jeff Bridges has played a lot of Sagittarian characters, but I really love his character. This is one of my favorite shows in, oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Oh, it was what the Starman.
The Fisher King.
Oh,
Well,
the
the
Fisher
Starman is
King
very
and
interesting
Starman
too.
was also
Right.
Jeff
The
Bridges.
Fisher King, right, where Jeff Bridges plays this larger-than-life radio talk show personality that falls from grace and inadvertently triggers a shooter to, commit a mass shooting, and it takes out people in a restaurant. And Robin Williams is also in it, who's a Cancer, right? And Jupiter is exalted in
Right.
Cancer.
We'll talk more about that at other shows.
And it was really such a
What
profoundly,
exaltation
yeah,
means.
an artistic and beautiful film. And a really, really interesting way to view the relationship between a Sagittarius and a Cancer and how they work together. Also, Jennifer Connelly is
Yes,
also Sagittarius.
right.
Scarlett Johansson,
Both
Brad Pitt,
Alyssa Milano
Alyssa
and
Milano,
Marissa Tomei, they're both
Marissa
Sagittarians. Yeah.
Tomei.
But we will get into more astrology and characters of the movie industry as we go on.
So
We'll certainly make that a point to provide that kind of knowledge and entertainment to the people who are those who are viewing and listening to
oh,
our
hi.
show.
Hold on. Oh, Delakia. Oh, hi. Welcome. Oh, well, I'm so sorry that we're about to wrap the show up, Delakia, but I'm so glad that you made it. What I wanted to do is but always it's Eastern Standard Time, sweetheart. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a point to learn the time zones, because there are people from around the world that are checking in with us now. And I'll also discuss those time zones and what time that would be in those zones. I think that's important at this point. I wanted to.
Does she have a question?
Nope, she was the one she was our tiger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's the one that's going into law, and she's looking
at
a judicial exam.
Yes, the exam, yes.
So
yes, we'll entertain more questions if she comes back.
And in the meantime, also, I want to just recommend some channels that have been amazing for me for you to check out while you're filling in, because there's so much information. It's incredible to coordinate this. This is what I love about YouTube now, and our new way of reaching and communicating with people, because we can look at other practitioners as well and get ideas. It's incredible. So I want to give a shout out and recommendations to Black and Orange Tarot, Linda G, the Comanche Psychic, Psychic Violetta, Sterling, Celtic Tarot, The Way of Positive Change, Intuitive View, Third Eye Champagne, Joni Patri, who is a Vedic astrologer, very, very good. Of course, The Spirit Within. So go and check out their channels. And by the way, if there are any things that you think about that you want us to talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments under the video. And we do read the comments. So far, it hasn't overwhelmed us yet. So if you have any requests that you would like us to discuss because you can't come to the live show, by all means, leave it in the comments.
Right.
And if you guys are in Long Island, I also want to recommend my sister-in-law's restaurant, Il Bacetto. You know it has to be delicious because she gave me the coolest coffee cup on the planet. I'm just saying. I know they don't seem to have anything to do with it, but, she has great taste. What can I tell you? The Golden Globe is our favorite diner. The owners are incredibly kind and friendly, delicious
and they have
food.
Good food.
A huge
For
menu.
a diner, they have absolutely good food.
Yeah, Sorella's, my old haunt where I used to work, also fantastic. They are sushi and Italian, phenomenal, an enormous menu. And also my favorite little boutique organic place to hang out is called Be Organic. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to start doing some of this stuff on location. So I have some plans for us to kind of hit the street and do readings, and maybe even, do astrology readings for people just out in public just for fun. Okay, so is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, not for today. We'll have plenty of time and plenty of things to go over as this show goes on.
Oh, welcome, awesome, Rohan. So you know what I would like you to do, because we're about to end the show, close the show. What I would like you to do is post your information that you would like me to read on in the comments. And for the next show, I can come back and we'll do a reading on that show for you. And if you can come live, perfect. If not, you can view the video later and we'll have that prepared for you.
Okay.
So, yeah, and thank you, everybody.
For now, we'll say
Yeah.
goodbye.
Many blessings and love and peace to all of you. Travel light.